end of this rare tour that they're making. Mr. Speaker, I will be contributing shortly on this issue, but I want to agree with you and the Honorable Ichungwa on what you've just said. The need for order in the House can never be overemphasized, really. And on a lighter note, Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, I think Thursday, yes, that same day, was the first time I saw when a quorum bell was being rung. I want the Speaker to listen to me, Honorable Wamboka. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in my history in this Parliament, I saw when the quorum bell was being rung, members trooping out of the chambers. Instead of trooping back to the chambers. It is something that's never been witnessed in the history of this Parliament for as long as I've been here. Until the benches on the majority side became empty, totally empty. Of course, as a way of frustrating the debate on the motion. Yeah, but that's something we need to deal with in future, because again, it's a standing orders. Mr. Speaker, let me support this motion. The motion on the report of the delegation, okay, that went to this meeting in Doha, Qatar. The delegation of members of APNAC. APNAC, for members who don't know, is the African Parliamentary Network Against Corruption. Mr. Speaker, I must confess that I've been a very active member of APNAC, at least until this Parliament. And I had an occasion in the 11th Parliament to represent APNAC Kenya at a meeting in Chad. I remember that time. Yeah. And one of the things I must acknowledge is that APNAC, just like other caucuses that deal with the matter of corruption, is a very important entity. And I must thank the chairman. The Honorable Shakil Shabir has been chairman now for quite some time. The fight against corruption requires not only goodwill, but demonstrable actions from the leadership of the country. And this House comprises of people who are at the apex of the leadership of this country. And therefore, if we take up the matter of the fight against corruption head on and more seriously, I am sure the whole country can take cue. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want APNAC now to move from talk to action. From talk to action. And the fight against corruption must start with action from ourselves as leadership of the country. We can no longer just be talking about the fight against corruption as a pastime. We must demonstrate not only to the country but to the whole world that Kenyan parliamentarians truly believe in the fight against corruption. Truly believe in the fight against corruption. I must acknowledge that at least for the 10 or so months, this now 10 months I think, since this parliament began, we haven't had the cases of members being hauled to courtrooms on matters of corruption. I know, of course, in the past one would argue that corruption charges were being used as a political tool. Be that as it may, whenever members of parliament are hauled to courtrooms on charges of corruption, it sends very, very bad signals to the country. That those who should be at the forefront in fighting corruption are the ones who are being accused of being involved in corruption. And this House has got the capacity and indeed obligation to compel the executive to also take a lead in the fight against corruption. So what am I saying in short? That APNAC requires support, but even to support it, it would be important for members, all members of parliament, if possible, to join in APNAC as active members, to demonstrate our faith in APNAC, but also to show the whole world that the Kenyan parliamentarians really believe in the fight against corruption. Because corruption remains one of the single biggest threats to the existence of this country. Corruption is a cancer that, if not checked, if not tackled, can actually eat the entire fabric of the nation. The entire fabric of the nation. So I want to commend the chairman of APNAC, my good friend Honorable Shakil Shabir, and members of APNAC who are active, and indeed the membership of GOPAC, that is the Global Parliamentarians Against Corruption, to which we belong as APNAC Kenya. And indeed I'm being told that the Honorable Shakil Shabir is a member of the board of GOPAC. Mr. Speaker, or Madam Speaker now, sorry. Madam Speaker, in the 12th Parliament, when I was the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, I was also privileged to be the Secretary General of the African Organization of Public Accounts Committees, AFROPAC, which also has similar objectives as APNAC in the fight against corruption. So I would want to encourage members of Parliament and my colleagues to please enlist yourselves in these caucuses, in these organizations that deal with corruption, so that at least the whole country and the whole world can know that Kenyan parliamentarians are serious with the fight against corruption. As I conclude, you know, corruption in this country is budgeted for a long time. Corruption in this country is budgeted for a long time. How I wish that culture of budgeted corruption comes to a stop, comes to an end. We have got enough resources in this country that can take care of all our needs, if only we dealt with the pilferage and wanton misuse of resources by those who are charged with the responsibility of taking care of those resources on behalf of the people of Kenya. Wastage, pilferage is one of the biggest issues that we face as a country. If you are keen enough and you happen to read any report of the Public Accounts Committee, you will notice that those state departments, those agencies, those commissions that deal with matters of project procurement are where corruption is domiciled. Corruption follows budget. Once you budget for projects and you don't deal with the matter of budgeted corruption, you will be breeding corruption. It is quite clear. Those agencies, those departments of state that have got little or no budget for capital projects, you will rarely see any case of corruption. But where there are projects to be procured, that is the home of corruption. And therefore, I will be appealing to my colleagues that let us lead by example on this front. Thank you. I support.
Let me recognize the schools first, then you'll go. I wish to recognize in the public gallery the following schools: